Hi guys, welcome back to Bunny Brook Designs. So today, as you can see, it's seed bead day. So I've been wanting to make this bracelet for a while, a spiral bracelet. I will put a picture at the beginning of the video, which you'll have already seen when you watch it, of what we're going to be doing here. But it's basically going to be a spiral using these 6-0 like rainbow lavender seed beads, and so these are 6-0s, and then we're going to be using 8-0 and these are transparent rainbow teal in that color, which I think this is going to be the core and this is going to be the outside, and then these beautiful purple and gold bicones, and they are 4mm bicones. So we're going to be using these today to do the spiral bracelet. So you'll need Fireline. I'm using smoke because I think that'll go well. It'll be hidden in there. It'll kind of recess into the beads because these are kind of darker beads. If you're using lighter beads, whites and things like that, you'd want to use white thread to kind of try to blend it, but usually the smoke on beads will recess into it. So I'm going to take a couple of wingspans, just because we're probably going to need that and more. So I'm just going to take a couple of wingspans of the Fireline, and I will thread my needle here, and I'm using a size 12 beading needle, so it's the smallest needle that I have. And so what we're going to do to start out with, and I'm just going to hold this in my fingers just so that I don't lose beads. I'm going to pick up 4 of the 6-0s. So I'm going to get 4 6-0s on my needle. So I've got 4 6-0s right there. And I'm just going to let those kind of fall down to where my fingers are. And I'm just going to hold on to them for now because we will tie a knot here in a little bit. I am going to leave a little bit of a tail though, so that I can maybe finish this side off without having to add thread. So I'm going to leave about a foot. And then I'm going to pick up 2 of my 8-0s. 1 of the 4mm bicones, and 2 more 8-0s if I can get them. So there's 1 and 2. So you're going to have, so it's going to look like that. You're going to have 2 8-0s, a bicone, and 2 8-0s. Now, I am going to take and thread my needle going in the same direction as I was before. So here's my tail, here's my working thread, and so I'm just going back through and basically making a circle. Okay, so that is going to be the start of my my spiral. So it's just going to look like that. So you can go back through. I'm going to go through one more time just to secure it. Just because I want to make sure that this isn't going to go anywhere when I am beading. I just don't want this first part to slip off. So now I've got this on here. So it's 4 6-0s and then 2 8-0s, a bicone, and 2 8-0s on this side. Now I'm going to turn my work and keep it so that, because I'm left-handed, it doesn't really matter. Honestly, it doesn't really matter which direction you have it in. As long as your outside work, so the teals and the bicone stay to one side. So now I am going to work with the bicone on my right because I'm left-handed. If you're right-handed, you'd want to put the bicone on the left. And I'm going to pick up 1 more 6-0. Okay. And then I'm going to do 2 8-0s, a bicone, and 2 8-0s again. And then now I am going to let those fall all the way down here to my work here. And I am going to separate. So I've just let that extra bead, that extra 6/0 here is going to fall down up against my work. And now I'm going to count that new one that I put on. I'm going to count that one and go 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to go back through those 4 beads in the same direction as I'm coming out. Okay. And take my working tail out. So now it should look like that. Okay. So I went into this seed bead right here and went 1, 2, 3, 4, come out of this one. And now I have that. Now, again, remember I said you're going to want to keep your bicones to one side. So I'm just going to take my thumb and I'm just going to push that over and I'm just going to hold on to it. Now I'm going to add another 6/0. If I can grab one. There we go. Right? So now I've got my 6/0 and I'm going to pull this one just to show you. It's going all the way down. Right? And now I'm going to, ouch, if I don't stab myself with a needle, pick up 2 8/0s, a bicone. And I'll zoom in and do a close-up of this here, just so you can see it real close here in a minute. And 2 8/0s. And remember, we just added that bead. So I'm going to let those fall down the needle. And so I've just added the bead. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to go up through those top 4. And then pull it tight. And as you can see, it's starting to form a spiral. So pushing it over, as you can see, there's my spiral starting to form. Now I am going to move you in a little closer, and we are going to do this. I'm going to show you really up close now. So now I'm going to take one of my 6/0s and let it come all the way down, okay, to my work here. And so now you can see I'm going to pick up 2 more 8/0s, and sorry, I've got a bunny under my feet again. A 4mm and 2 more 8/0s. And now again, 1, 2, 3, 4. And just going back through that and pulling it tight. And then moving my work over. As you can see, it's starting to form this really nice spiral. Okay, and so now we are going to do that one more time up close for you, and then I'm going to pause the video and do some, and then we'll come back and do some more together once I've gotten it a little further along. So again, pick up 1 6/0, let it drop, and again, you don't necessarily have to let it drop. You can pick up all your beads like I did on the first one and let it just fall all the way down. Okay. And then 1, 2, 3, whoops. And see, I almost forgot that I had, and I've got a knot. And that's the only thing you got to be careful of, is you don't get knots in your thread. So, all right, so now we're down. And we've got 1, there's our new one. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to go through and pull that tight. And there we go. So there's that one. All right, I'm going to pause you. I'm going to do a few and I will be back. All right, guys, I'm back. So I just wanted to show you how the spiral's starting to look and starting to come together. Now, I really like these colors together. I think that's going to look really nice. And so I wanted to kind of show you, when you're working on this, how at some point you can get lost as to what side these things belong on. So like, for example, if I did that, I can still see my core, but again, I've got beads. If I'm looking at my top, I've got beads on the right side or the left side, and I want them all on the same side. So I'm just going to push those over, and the bottom beads will move around a little bit. But so I'm just pushing it over, and as you can see, it's forming a really nice spiral. So in making sure when you're adding that bead, so I'm just going to add one and kind of show you, you need to make sure once you've started to get your spiral going, as you're adding beads, that you are on the right spot. So you can always tell by looking at the highest bead on your spiral, which is this one, and making sure. So if I were to do this and be like, oh, that belongs on the other side, no, because it's the highest bead. So he gets tucked back over there. And I'm going to pick up my 2 8/0s, my bicone. Now, if you wanted to do this with just all 8/0s, you could certainly do that. Do 6 8/0s. You could do 6/0s and do 4 6/0s. You could do, you know, a bigger bicone and just a single. And I just messed that up. And so I'm just going to stick my needle back through because I forgot to pick up my last 2 seed beads. So that's also too, you want to make sure that you pick up the right number of beads. Not sure what that is. So, yeah. Anyways, where was I? Yeah, so you can do different things. And as you can see, I'm not on the right spot here. So I just need to turn my work to get to the right spot. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you could do 15/0s and 8/0s, you know, instead of 11/0s. You could do all 11/0s. You can do any number of things. So I'm using 6/0s and 8/0s just because I wanted this to be a little bit bigger and chunkier for you. But yes, you can certainly do, you know, any number of configurations with this pattern, as long as your outer spiral is the same length or slightly longer than your 4 beads on your core. So just keep that in mind. So if you were to do, for example, I were to do 6/0s in the core and 4 11/0s, my outer beads are going to be too short for my core, and that isn't going to work. Now you could do 2 beads if you wanted to make a tighter spiral. 3 beads, have it shorter. Have shorter spirals. You know, again, the configurations are endless. The biggest thing is making sure your outside spiral is the same length or longer than your outside, or I'm sorry, than your core. So yeah. And so if you're trying to do this with the same type of beads that I'm doing, 6/0s, 6/0s for your core, 2 8/0s, a 4mm bicone, and 2 8/0s will definitely get you what you need. If you don't have 4mm bicones and you want to use 6mm bicones, you can certainly do that. And I'm just trying to pull out a knot here that I have in my thread. So the threads get knotted here, twisted up a little bit, and I want to lengthen my thread. So just pulling it down the needle a little bit. Not that I really need it, but I like to have a long length of thread to work with. All right, so pick up another 6/0, 2 8/0s. And so this is something that once you've gotten the pattern, it's very easy to do. You can, do this while you're watching TV. Do it while you're, just hanging out on a rainy Sunday afternoon. And it'll go pretty quick. It's not like you're, having to stitch, a ton of seed beads together. And so, just while we were talking, I'm at 2 inches, right there. So that's a 2 inch. And for a bracelet, you need between 6 and 7 inches, depending on the size of the wrist. I'm probably going to go 6.5. So really, we've, been working on this for maybe 20 minutes. Like I did pause the video for like 5-10 minutes to get a little bit, but we've been working on it for 20 minutes and I'm already at 2 inches. So I'm going to pause you. I'm going to get the length and then I will show you how to finish this up. All right, guys, so I'm not finished, but I did want to show you, I went into the hole at the wrong thing and I tried to stick my thread back through and it got snagged. So I just took my needle off. So if you go through the wrong bead on your core, so I went through the 4th bead and like this 4th bead instead of the 3rd bead with my additional one. So I went through 5. I miscounted. Just pull your needle out, pull it out. You can leave your beads on, so I left my beads on. I just pulled my needle out. I'm going to rethread my needle and continue on. So I just wanted to show you that real quickly. That is if I can rethread the needle. There we go. Yeah, so if you go through the wrong bead, just pull your thread out. Make sure you count correctly. And you will know when it's not the right thing because it'll try to line up exactly. So when I was doing it and I had gone through this bead here, this one that's this set, I noticed it was lining up right next to it instead of being just above it. So when it laid, instead of laying up above it like that, it was laying down here like this. So if you ever happen to see your beads like that and this, top bead bent over or something, you've gotten it in the wrong spot. So I just corrected that and now it's in the right spot and it's sitting just slightly above it. Anyways, I'm going to continue on. As you can see, I am just about 3.5 inches. So I've got about another 3 to go. And it really hasn't taken me that long, so I will be back very shortly. I'll see. Well, you'll see me in a second. It'll probably take me another 10-15 minutes, but I'll be right back. Oops, sorry about shaking the camera, guys. So I'm at about 6.5 inches right now, which almost goes all the way around. I wanted to do a couple more rounds together on camera, and then I'm going to show you quickly how to finish it off. Well, to finish it off so you can add jump ring and clasp to this. Now you can obviously, if you wanted to, you could make this into a big bracelet. Like you could measure the diameter of your hand here, make the bracelet big enough to go around your hand and just roll it on. But again, I'm going to be selling these or selling this one probably. So I would rather put a clasp on it and extender chain so that, it's going to fit multiple wrist sizes. you know, if I was making it for myself, sure, I could finish it off that way. I'm going to do one more. So just to show you, pick up your 6/0. I'm sliding it down just because then that way I know it's there. Picking up 2 8/0s, a bicone, and 2 more 8/0s. And then making sure all my beads are to my side. 1, 2, 3, 4 down. Pass through all 4. And there you go. Now, I'm just kind of measuring my wrist just as a... I could probably go a few more because, again, this one's kind of thick. We'll do one more together, and then I think we'll just finish this off. So pick up a 6/0, 2 more 8/0s, and 2 more 6/0s. So also, the reason why I say, because it's a chunky wide bracelet, you can go a little bit longer, is because even though you have the length, the thickness of the bracelet is going to take up some of that length when it's going around your wrist. So I think that looks good. So now to finish this off, and this is why I left a nice long tail, I want to make a loop. So all I'm going to do is I am going to pick up... Actually, I think I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to pick up 1... do I want to do that? No, we're just going to do 8/0s. So I am just going to pick up 3 8/0s, and I am going to pass through the top 8/0 of the bead I just came of the last bead on the spiral. I'm going to go back through the 6/0, back up through my 8/0. So now I have just a little loop on there, but I have this bead that's sitting sideways, and that's what I want. So now I've got this sideways bead here, okay? And all I'm going to do now is pick up, now you could do that sideways bead as a, 6/0. I'm going to pick up 5 beads and pass back through that sideways bead. And now I have a loop. And I'm just going to I'm going to go back through these a couple of times just to make it nice and tight, because this is where your jump ring clasp is going to be sitting. So I'm back through. Sorry if my fingers are in the way. I'm going to pass back through, whoops, these beads. Oh, if I can get my needle to go through, it keeps sliding out. There we go. We'll try it this way. There we go. I got fumbly hands tonight. And just keep going back through. So that's twice. I'm going to do one more pass back through, just because, again, I want to make sure this is nice and sturdy for my work. And then I'm going to pass through those beads again that I came out of and back up through just once, and then I'm going to go back down through them now, just so I know that they're nice and tight. So now I have a loop on this side for a jump ring. Now I am going to go back through my core beads for a few beads, and I'm going to basically go around the core. I don't want to do this around my spiral, because it's not going to look good if you have a knot on your spiral. And I'm just going to make a, oops, went the wrong way. So I had it already in there once. I just went the wrong way back through it. So I'm going to go around the thread a couple of times just to form a knot. I'm going to tie it nice and tight. I'm going to go back down through a couple more beads in my core. And you will have to turn your work here. So I'm going through, I don't know, 5, 6 beads. Getting to another spot in my core. And I'm going to wrap around the core and literally just come up and make a knot, making sure that when it closes nice and tight around the thread. And you can do this 2 or 3 times. Also, too, you have the option of reinforcing. When you're doing this, you can reinforce your spiral part, not your core. So the 6/0s are the core. And I'm trying to make one more knot here. There we go. And I'm trying to just do this so that I'm not hooking any of my spiral. Like that. Don't want to do that. And then just pulling this nice and super tight. And then to finish it off, I am going to go back through several beads. And then I am going to just trim off as close as I possibly can. And because it's gray, nobody's really going to see that. And so there's side number 1. Now side number 2 was the side we didn't finish. And I left a foot-long tail. So we're just going to thread the needle here. If I can thread the needle. And sometimes snipping your thread again might help. So basically what I'm trying to do is push the needle onto the thread. Because I can see the hole. It's just this thread is very thick for this needle. There we go. I'm using 6-pound Fireline. So, all right. So now that I've got it back on, again, pick up 3 8/0s. And then I'm going to go back through. So this first 8/0 right next to this 6/0, I'm going to go down through just that one 8/0. And I'm going to come back up through this first 6/0. Okay, so I'm just going to come back through that right there. And that's going to form a little triangle there. And then I'm going to go back up. Whoops. My needle's slippery tonight. And then I'm going to go through, as you can see, this one's sideways. I'm going to go through that. And I'm going to pick up my 5 seed beads, my 5 8/0s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And go back through the same direction to form a loop. And then I'm just going to reinforce this a few times. Now, obviously, if you know what color metals you want to use on this, you can put your jump ring on at the same time, or you can put your clasp on and reinforce your clasp in here. I don't know what I'm going to be using, and I'm probably going to be using a toggle clasp for this, maybe. So, maybe toggle clasp, maybe lobster claw with extender chain. And I'm debating whether I want to use silver or gold with this, or even possibly gunmetal, just because I don't want to detract from the bracelet. Now, I am almost done. I'm going to pass through this one more time. It's nice and tight. And again, 6-pound fire line should be strong enough to hold up to, I don't think you're going to be, doing a lot of tight stuff or pulling on this very much. So, all right. So now that I've gone through that several times, I'm going back through the first bead of my 3 and the last bead of the spiral there. So I'm going through 2, gonna come back up through the 8-0, or the 6-0, I'm sorry, 6-0, and then the 8-0 on that first triangle that we did. Go back through the sideways bead and go back down through, and I'm gonna go through this. I'm gonna do this once more, so that I have a nice stable end, and it's, reinforced quite nicely. And then I'm going to come back through, and while there is thread, and I don't know if you can see that real well, there is thread there. The gray, it's so, it blends in so well, you're really not going to notice it. And now I'm going to go back through my core and go through several beads, pulling it nice and tight, and I'm going to make a knot here, making sure that when I'm going through this, that I'm going through just around the core itself, not anything else. And I'm going to pull that tight and go back through. Now, I always do at least 3 knots. So that way, if one fails, you've got a couple more. Although I've never had knots fail. I've had people break bracelets because it's gotten snagged on something. But I've never had it just fell apart. So there's knot number 2. And we're going to do one more. And partly that's because when you're doing knots, you never want to really cut the knot right next to the knot, because that will allow it to fray. Potentially, I always like to weave in, so like I'll make my last knot, and you'll notice with all of my jewelry, when I'm doing this, I pull it nice and tight, and then I take my thread and I go back through several more beads. So I just come out of that one right there. So that's several past where my last knot was, and cut off. So anyways, that's the spiral. And so I think this would look good with silver. So I am going to grab a silver jump ring, or 2 silver jump rings. I don't want that small of a jump ring. So I'm going to grab a couple jump rings here. I'm going to grab a lobster claw if I can find one. Let me grab a lobster claw. And some extender chain. and we will finish this bracelet off together. All right, so there's my extender chain. Yeah, I think silver will go very nicely with this. So to finish this off, I am now just going to take my jump ring and my lobster claw, and I am going to do that. And if you're not sure that this is going to stay, you're afraid that the thread is going to come off your jump ring, you can put a little dot of super glue on this. You can put solder. You can use split rings and sew them in. I usually, like, I will probably put, you can put nail polish on it. I will probably take for this and put a drop of UV resin on the jump ring. And just to make sure that it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, those are pretty secure, but and so there is what your Cellini spiral will look like. And so to show you on a wrist, I'm going to grab my hand here and just attach it to my tiny little wrist. Nobody has wrists this small unless they're like a 5-year-old child, but yeah, so that's what it's going to look like on the wrist. Nice Cellini spiral, or not Cellini spiral, I'm sorry, spiral rope bracelet. I say Cellini because I was actually looking at doing one of those maybe later. Again, I'm trying to get ready for a craft show coming up in March. So I will be at the McCoy Center in Hilliard, Ohio, doing a avant-garde spring craft show, craft fair, spring fling, or whatever they call it. So I'll have all of this and more that I've done there. So anyways, quick beginner spiral. Now, optionally, if you wanted to make the bracelet, let's say this long, right? So actually, let me lengthen this up a little bit. So let's say you made it this long and you wanted to just put it over your wrist and do that. You could certainly do that. But again, I didn't want it too long because I wanted it so that you could have a smaller wrist. You know, or a larger wrist. And while this extender chain is actually quite long, I think I'm going to cut part of that off because I don't think it really needs to be that long. So I'm going to cut right there. And so I cut it on the side, and the reason why I did that is because if you're trying to connect two pieces of chain together, oops, that broke. You can actually use those as jump rings, but that one broke on me. Yeah, so that's all I need for an extender. And then this one I can save for another bracelet. Anyways, so that's the seed bead spiral bracelet. And so yeah, so I hope that inspires you. And when you're designing like this, and when I was trying to put this together, and this actually it's a dark bracelet, but it's really, really pretty. I always like to use my color wheel. And so if we look at it, it's going to be violet. And then we have, you know, kind of the teal, which is in this shade here, which is interesting because if I put this on teal, you know, so like if you're putting it on teal, right, the complementary colors, it's slightly off, but it's within the same shading. So it's within the blues. So it's this color. It's actually this color. And then I've got a purple or a light purple. It's actually kind of pink, the lavender. So, or if we do it on this side, the lighter side, and we do purple, and then, you know, the warm red of this goes with the blue-green. I don't always follow the color wheels when I'm designing. I actually try to put things together to see how they look. And I think this looks good together. Again, while this is purple, it's got that pinkish, you know, if we're looking at this on a color wheel, it's kind of in between these two, the red violet and the violet on this because of the AB coating. So if you're saying that it's violet, right? So if we were to put that and do split complementary, I would be in the violet blues. If I were to do the triad, right, and do violet, it would be greens and then orange hues. So I don't always use that because there is also the color wheel where you can go one shade over and then you do a different, and I forgot it. It's a quad or something where you have. Anyways, I did do a little color theory and I just can't remember what it was. But anyways, that is the spiral rope. I hope you like it. I hope it inspires you. And I'm going to include at the end of this video a couple of photos. Little Miss Velvet, just to tell you a little story, Little Miss Velvet got her picture taken today. So somebody from one of the bunny rescues from At My Bunny Boys came and did video or photos, professional photos of bunnies. And so she came to my house because Velvet's very skittish, doesn't like the carrier. She came here and she did Valentine's photos of my baby girl. And so I'm going to include a couple for you, and I hope you like them. And I think I'm going to go make another one of these in some other colors. And then I think on the next seed bead video we're going to do, I think we'll do a Cellini spiral. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.